Welcome to EECS1022 Winter 2021. In this tutorial series, we are going to show to you on a weekly basis topics related to object-oriented programming in Java. So every week, we're going to add videos of length between 90 minutes to 2 hours to really give you the necessary hands-on experience of programming in Java. For the very first video, the current video, we're just going to show you how you can set up the working environments. So there are three components I would like to talk about before we introduce to you how to program in Eclipse, starting from the next video. Number one, I would like to talk about the software management, which that's highly recommended but not required for you to do for this course. So for software management, we would like you to use the common practice called Github. So in order to do this, you can follow this particular tutorial series that's also done on YouTube. You can go over the videos and then you will see how to make use of the basic features of the Github tool. Okay, I'm also going to include all the hyperlinks in the video's description section. So you can definitely just check them out. You don't need to write anything down. And then you have to make sure every repository you create will be private. Meaning that if you try to do your lab assignments also try to back up your lab assignment using GitHub, it's not really available to your fellow students. It would be considered as plagiarism if you actually share your lab solution with anyone else. So it's really critical for you to make sure it's always private. Okay, and then we're going to create a EECS1022 workspace on GitHub. Okay, let's see how we can do this first. Assuming that you already follow through this particular tutorial series, knowing how all the basic functions work. So let's now create our first repository for EECS1022. Alright, assuming that you have already created your GitHub accounts, it is recommended you choose some meaningful name that's easy to identify as you. Okay, and then we're going to click on to create a new repository. So you can click on repositories over here. You may have none so far, but for me, I've got several already. Okay, you can click on new over here, and then we'll choose a name for the repository. The ideas will be we're going to have a number of Java projects for every week throughout the semester. And then we're going to put all the Java projects inside a single repository. So let's choose a name. So we can say EECS1022. Let's choose a dash as a separator. And then W standing for Winter 21. And then the standard way of calling workspaces for Eclipse will be just workspace. Or you can say playground. So the name is optional, so it's kind of up to you. All right, now it's a critical step because it's very likely that you might also put all your lab assignments or any exercises you want to create for yourself, especially a lab assignment, into this particular repository. So it's really important, in order to maintain academic honesty, you cannot actually share your lab solutions with anybody else except for yourself. So it would be very important to choose private, right? It's a very important step for you to follow. Okay, and then the standard way would be, let's say we just want to add a README file just to have some documentation. Okay, I'll just put something by default over there, and then we'll modify the git ignore file just to say we may want to ignore certain files in your project. We'll get to this maybe in the later part of the tutorial. Okay, and that'll be enough, and then we can simply say create repository. So now we have created a private repository, and that's called EECS1022 W21 workspace. And why don't we just write something very simple over here, just as an initial? We can say that the repository was first created in, for example, let's say day 1 of the semester. You can say January, I believe the day 1 is 11th, 2021. Of course, if there's anything else you would like to add to the documentation, you can do it. Okay, it will be also updated on the GitHub repository. All right, so now I can just say commit changes, and then every time you want to commit some changes, you better put some log message to document the change. I would say initial message. All right, and then I'll say commit changes over here. Okay, so that's the documentation over here. So now on the web cloud, we have already created this particular repository, and now we're going to clone this repository to two places. Number one, the remote lab that's belonging to your EECS account, and also number two, your local machine. So we can actually back up your work in multiple places. It's highly recommended that you always back up your work. Okay, so that's about what I would like to do on the GitHub website. So now what we want to do is we want to go to the remote labs, and then we want to check out your GitHub repository. In order to use the remote labs from supported by our EECS server, you will need to create an EECS account if you haven't got one. So I will just indicate to you. So this will be the link that you have to go to. You can also check out the video description section. I also included the hyperlink over there. And then after you have created the, I'll show you how it looks like. So if you go to this particular link, it's going to be a page like this, and then it will take some time, possibly a few hours, in order for your new account to really be activated. So just be patient, please. And then after that, we're going to go to, let me just go back to my tablets. And after you have created your EECS account, you can, every time you want to go to any virtual EECS lab machine, you can just go to this link over here. Okay. In that particular place, we actually already got two necessary software available for you. So we got the Eclipse, which we're going to focus on for the first throughout the course. Actually, for Eclipse, we're going to use another tool called Android Studio in the final 1/3 for the course. And also, we all the GitHub commands that you learn from the tutorial video are also available over there. You can simply use it by using a terminal. I'll show some basic ones to you along the way. And then we can clone a copy. That's really important. So whatever we just created on the cloud, we can now clone a copy into the your EECS account. And then any changes we make over there, we can commit back to the cloud. So we can always keep the cloud and your EECS account or your local machine always in sync. So that would be the idea. It's a very good self-engineering practice I would like to show to you. Okay. All right, so now let's go to this particular remote labs link. Okay, if you simply go there, assuming that your new EECS account has been activated successfully, you just have to enter there. For example, I got student Jackie, so that's my student account. I'll simply say login. Just make sure you enter your password correctly. So once you log in, you may not see anything over here. These are simply the previous sessions I chose to connect, so they're just available to me. Otherwise, you can simply give a try on different. These are just different labs that support a connection. But I would suggest maybe just try the EA machine over here. That's really the physical person lab that's in the Lausanne building. If you click on, if you expand it, you will see there are many machines over here available, right? You got up to EA 78. So depending on how busy the session is, but hopefully you can always get a free spot to do your work. So let me just choose any arbitrary one. I can click on that, and then it's going to connect to the machine. Okay, just give it a little bit of time over here. Okay, so now it's done. So what I would like you to do now is to really try to clone a copy of the GitHub repository that we just have created. So how do we clone a copy of your repository? In the remote labs, you will have to do this via a terminal using commands. But on your local machine, you can install the GitHub Desktop application and then simply use the GUI, the graphical user interface, to do it. I'll show you both. Let's do the remote labs using a terminal first. So what we want to do is, let's say we simply just want to clone onto your desktop of your remote labs, let's say, for example. So what we're going to do is you're going to go to activities over here and then choose a terminal over here. Okay. So once you go to terminal, you want to change your current position into the desktop. You will say CD and also tilde, denoting your home directory, / and then desktop, capital D. Okay, desktop over here. Okay, just over there. Okay, and then if you say pwd, it tells you where you are. So it tells me I'm now currently in my home directory under sjackie, the student account, and also the desktop. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we need to copy the URL for your repository on the GitHub. To do it, simply just go back to the tab for your web browser and then copy that, you wouldn't be able to paste it onto the terminal directly. I tried that, I failed. So I would suggest let's try the safe way. Let's go to activities again. Let's use a second app. So that will be the Firefox web browser. Okay, if you simply go there, and then I would suggest you go to github.com. Okay, github.com. If you go there, and then I want you to log in. I'm already logging to my GitHub account. You can simply log in using your GitHub credential, and then let me click on my home page over here, my profile. Okay, that's me. And then I can go back to my repositories, and let's go to the one we just created together. So that's the 1022 W21 workspaces. Okay, once I go there, you will see something called code over here. Okay, I want you to click on this upside down triangle, and then we got options over here. So what we want to do is under the HTTPS, so we want to copy this particular link. You can see there is one icon over here. That's for you to copy the link. So simply click on that. Okay, click on that. So now it's copied, okay, to your clipboard. So now we're done with this part. You can simply minimize your web browser over here. Okay, and then so now what you can follow with my commands. I will also include script sheets, like data sheets about all the commands you will need for GitHub in your lab instruction. You can refer to it. So we can say git, and then we'll say clone. Okay, and then now we can paste the URL that we just copied from the GitHub website. So you can right click, and then you can say paste. Right, so that's the one we just copied, and then you can hit enter. Okay, it's going to ask for your username and also the password. Just be careful. Okay, for my case, it's going to be Jackie Chanwei -1. For you, it might be different, of course. Okay, that's my password. Okay, so now it's done. Okay, so basically, you shouldn't see any error messages over here. So these are just log messages about the connection. So now it's being succeeded. So now you can see on my desktop, I do have a repository over here. If I go into it, you can see the only thing I have is the README file over here. If you double click on that, you can see that's the log message that we created before, right? So everything's in sync. Okay, so that's about what I want you to do to clone your projects. So you can your repository. You can think about every time when you log in to your account into Remote Labs. If the previous work has not been saved, in that case, you can always reclone a fresh copy of your repository. That's how you do it. Okay. So now we're going to use this folder over here as a workspace for your Java projects. Okay, let's try to see how we can do it. And the software tool we need is called Eclipse. You have to be very careful about which version of the Eclipse you are invoking, because if you invoke the wrong one, you might run into non-termination when you create a new Java project. So I will be very careful when I introduce this to you. Okay, so let me show you the wrong way to really invoke the Eclipse. So if you go under Activities or any other means where you can see the GUI icon for Eclipse, this is not the way to go, okay? Never ever try to launch, at least for this semester, never ever try to launch the Eclipse from the GUI icon, not from there. The way we do it is from the command line, from the terminal. Okay, let me show you how you do it. So the version we need is 4.16 for Eclipse. That will actually work well together with with the Java programs and also the GitHub. So what we need to do is we gotta type Eclipse. However, you don't really just say Eclipse and then enter. No, that's not the way to go. That's the second way of making things go wrong. You have to say Eclipse over here 4.16. Okay, over here. You have to explicitly say which version it is. So I'm sorry that for this semester, we haven't really updated the Eclipse link just yet on the Remote Labs. So we have to stick with this. But maybe later, after winter 2021, they might fix the link. But for now, please always make sure you say Eclipse 4.16. You have to say that explicitly. Okay. Okay, when we say that, we say ampersand. So ampersand is something that you will learn later in your 2031 about shell programming. This is simply to say we're going to run the Eclipse program on the background. Okay, so 4.16. Okay, hit on enter, and then it's going to launch 4.16. You can see that it's year 2020. And for the workspace over here, you have to make sure this is the right path. So my path has been set up correctly. So let me show you how you can select from scratch. You will click on Browse, and then go to Desktop over here. And remember, this is the folder we cloned from the GitHub cloud. And then you say Open over here. Okay, so that's how you choose the workspace. Every time you want to clone your GitHub repository, that's how you choose the workspace. All right, and then you will say Launch. Okay, maybe for the very first time, it might take a little bit longer, but just be patient. Okay, as soon as it is launched, we're going to create our first Java projects, and then we'll try to keep in sync with the cloud. Okay, for the very first time, it's gonna say Workbench. That's okay. Just welcome messages. Just say Workbench over here. We want to launch directly to the Workbench. I will talk many more details about Eclipse, about how you can do programming, how you can set up the outline, the layout for your Eclipse in the later tutorial videos. But for now, let me focus on how you can create a new Java project and keep it in sync with the cloud. We want to create a new Java project. So what you would do is you want to say create a project over here. And then you can see Java projects over here, okay? And then another way to do it, okay, let me show you quickly. Another way to do it would be to say File, and then New, and then you can go to Other. So there's more than one way to actually create a new Java projects. And then over here, you can see Java projects again. Okay, either way. Next. And now I want to give a name to the projects. Let's just keep some consistent naming for all our projects, because we're going to introduce at least one project every week for the lab tutorial, for the tutorial video for Java programming. So why don't we say week number 1? So week underscore maybe 01. So let me just put the underscore as the separator. That's the convention for Java projects. And then the word over here is also capitalized. Okay, and then you don't have to worry about any other setup. That'll be it. So you can simply just say finish. And then for the very first time, it's going to ask, would you like to open Java perspective? Yep, you can simply say open. That's okay, right? All right, so now this particular Java project has been created. Let me just show you very quickly. You can see under the so-called package explorer, which I will explain what it really means later. Okay, for now, just make sure you can see expanded. You can see there's a source folder storing all the source code for your Java programs. We will do that in just a moment. And then you can see now, if you go back to your week number 01 over here, right? That's the project we just created. If you go inside, you actually got 2 subfolders over here. One is called the bin, storing the class file for Java, which you don't have to worry about typically. I'll explain a little bit more maybe later if we get a chance. But it's mainly the source file that you have to worry about later on for any labs or for your tests, for the programming test. Typically, you will be required to really go into the source folder and select the relevant Java classes to submit. But don't worry, we'll give you precise instructions later. For now, I just want to give you some quick overview. All right, so now let's create just one file over here, just to be interesting. So let's simply, you want to create a file, you will simply right-click on the source folder over here, like what I did. And then you will say New, and then Class over here, okay? Right-click on the source, and then say New, and then Java class. So now we want to have a new Java class. And what about a name? That's our very first Java file. So why don't we say that's hello world. And then we want to actually print out something to the console, which I will explain later, right? For now, I just want to create a new class. Okay, click on this public static void main strings over here. And then you will say finish. Okay, so over here, let me just write something over here. You can just type together with me. So you can say system dot. As soon as you say dot, it's going to show you some drop-down menu over here for all the options. Out dot print line, print ln. So ln here stands for line. Okay, and then why don't we simply say here, and then we want to put a string to the console. So you want to say double quote over here. Okay, so you got a pair of double quotes, and then you can say hello EECS 1022 winter 21. All right, it's a very typical way of starting your very first Java program. And make sure you can see there's a star over here over the tab. So that means your file is not saved yet. Always make sure you save your file. Okay, so you can say Control S, or you can simply go to File and then go to Save over here. But I've saved that already. That's why it's disabled. Okay, but always save your file. Okay, so now we just want to make sure everything works. So you can see for now it's very simple. Just print out one line to the console. So you can simply click on this play icon here, which means we're gonna run this current class. Click on that, and then you can see hello EECS1022 W21. All right. So basically that's our very first Java program. Okay. Exactly how things work together, we'll see later videos. Okay. So now I'm done. Let's say I'm done with some work on the remote labs. Now I would like to keep it in sync. So now be very careful. Every time after you log out of the current session, all the data will get lost. They will not be saved. So that means before you log out of your account from the remote labs, you always have to make sure you push and commit the work back to the GitHub. So to see how you can do push and commit conceptually, you can refer to the tutorial videos for the GitHub. But for now, I'm just going to show you how you can do it. So now let's say I want to leave the remote labs, but before I do that, I want to make sure I save everything that I have done, right? Especially the hello world and also the projects, right? So now let's see in the command line how I can do it. So always, if you want to know where you are in the command line, you can always do pwd over here. You can see now we are under basically my home directory and then desktop, okay? So now if you want to see what folders are actually available to you, you can say ls over here. So ls standing for list. I'm listing all the folders in my current directory. So you can see this folder particularly over here. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to actually add all the new files and all the new folders into my GitHub cloud. So what I will do is I just need to make sure I actually go into this particular folder. That's the step you want to take. Okay. So I would say cd, change the directory into EECS. Since this is the only folder on my desktop, I can also hit on tab. So that will actually autocomplete for me. Okay. All right. So now if I say ls, you can see I got my README file, which is has been there already, and also this is the week number 1 Java project I just created. Right. So now I'm now at the top level. You can think about I'm more like over here. So now I'm at the top level of the EECS W21 workspace, which where I have week 01. Inside I also got source and also bin, right? Now I want to add all of them into my cloud. So what I will do is I'm going to say the following command. I would say git add and everything. So I will simply say star. So the star here is something called wildcard. So that simply means add everything that's new from the last updates. Okay, if I simply say that, okay, so now I can commit. So now I can say git commit -n. Okay, and then I'm going to actually put some messages over here just to say what I have added. I can say added hello world message, for example. All right, so now I have done this particular one. Okay, so this is done. And then I want to finally try to push the updates into the GitHub. So I will type git and also push. Okay, again, it's gonna prompt for my username. I'll type it again. So Jackie. Okay, and you gotta type yours. Okay, and then it'll be prompting for my password. Okay, so now it's now really trying to push everything into the GitHub. So now everything has been pushed into the cloud. Everything has been in sync. How can you verify this? I would suggest go to your web browser, go to the tab where we originally created our GitHub repository. So now if you simply just refresh your repository, so now you can see that we got week 1 over here, right? So now you can see under week 1, we actually got our, we got settings, we got source, we got many other things. That's okay. and we go into source, you got hello world.java. Okay, so there is some improvement you can do, but I'll leave that to you. If you refer back to the tutorial video for the GitHub, it actually shows you how you can modify the git ignore files to really ignore the settings if you wish, or ignore the metadata. I'll leave that part to you, but it's not really necessary. You can just push everything into your GitHub. That's definitely fine. All right, so now we got everything. So what we have seen so far, we actually have created our initial empty repository in the cloud, and also we try to add a new project week 01, and also the hello world.java from our remote labs account. Okay, so now let me just remind you once more about the things you've got to be very careful. Okay, over here. Okay, so when you launch the, so we talk about over the remote labs. So you should never ever using the GUI icon. You should not do it. Okay, you should always explicitly say Eclipse 4.16. Okay, and you should not really say things like. You should not simply just say Eclipse. That one is going to invoke the 4.12. Right? Always do 4.16 explicitly, and then this will be the most important point. Right? Always before. Once you log out, you're going to lose all the data. So that's why you always have to make sure you commit and also push. So always refer to the lab instruction for the data sheets about the commands you need to type for the GitHub. If you only commit without push, it's going to be useless. If you only commit and then you didn't push and then you log out, it's not going to be pushed onto the cloud. You have to make sure you commit with some message followed by git push. Always do both. Okay, I cannot emphasize this enough, please. Otherwise, you're going to lose your work. You don't want to learn your lessons in the hard way. Always maintain a good practice to really always push and also commit. Okay, so that's about the remote labs part, which I went over with you thoroughly. So now I would like to switch back to the local machine. I believe most of you really prefer to really work on your Java projects on your local machine. So that's something I would like to show you to complete the current tutorial video. All right, let's go over the critical points for you to work on your local machine. Okay, so now we get to the third components for your working environments. So let me use a blue. So we talk about your own machine. Okay, so you have to make sure you download the Eclipse. It's always the latest version. You can just download it. It might be slightly more up-to-date version than the lab machines in the remote lab. That's okay. But for your local machine, you can go to this link. Again, I'm going to include it in the description for the video. And also, you want to download this particular tool for the GitHub. It's called Github Desktop. It's a very handy tool, which I'm going to show you. It's actually maybe many of you might much more preferred to actually use the GitHub desktop version as opposed to command line. But I would say if you want to, if somehow your local machine doesn't really work on the Eclipse, in that case, your only option left will be to use the remote labs. In which case, you must use the command line to really type your git command. But let's just keep both options open to you always. Okay, and then you're also going to clone a copy over here in your local machine. Let's see exactly how you can do it. Okay, it's going to be a more like a smoother process, hopefully. All right, what I will do is I'll go back to my web browser here. So now I'm already in my let me just go to my EECS 1022 W21 workspace, right? Remember the code icon we clicked on before. In the case of the remote labs where we have to use a command line, and then we simply copy and paste this particular link to the repository, right? Assuming that you have already installed the GitHub Desktop, you should be able to simply click on this, which will trigger the launch of the GitHub Desktop automatically. But just in case it doesn't work, I'll just show you another alternative way to really clone the repository. You can definitely try this, but if in case it doesn't work, sometimes what you can do is, again, you're going to click on this particular icon here to copy it. Similar procedure as we did in the remote labs web browser. Copy this git URL and then go to the GitHub application. So in my case, you can see this is the icon for GitHub Desktop. If I go there, so in my case, I got many repositories over here. In your case, it might be empty. That's okay. Let's now clone a new one for your 1022. So you need to click on add over here, either here, and then you're going to click on clone repository. One way to go. Or you can simply go to file and then go to clone repository, right? Either way. So the look and feel of the GUI for your GitHub desktop might be slightly different from mine, but you get the idea. Hopefully you can locate the relevant icons. Okay, we say we want to clone the repository, and then we're just going to go to the URL option over here, and then we're simply just going to paste the one we just copied, right? And then we'll say, and then we want to put it somewhere. So in this case, by default, it's simply going to put under Documents, GitHub, and then some folder. So if you like, let's say we want to put it somewhere else. So let's say I simply want to put it under my, let's say, desktop. And then I'll say open. Okay, so now I'm going to put it under my desktop, and then this will be EECS1022 W21 workspace, right? And then I'll say clone. Okay, as soon as this is done, you can see now under my, you can see this is the name of my GitHub account, Jackie Chen Wei 1. So that's my GitHub account, under which you can see over here we got 1022 W21 workspace. If you click on that, currently it's simply like that, right? If you go to the history over here, this shows to me all the initial commits, and then you can see added hello world message. This was the commit we did in the remote labs, right? That was already recorded in the cloud. Okay, hopefully everything makes sense to you. And you should always refer to the history if you're wondering about what changes you have made over time. Okay, so currently there's no changes. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to launch Eclipse locally on my Mac, for example. Right, so you will simply just go to the GUI icon. So again, let me clarify. In the case of the remote labs, you must not actually click on the GUI icon to really launch Eclipse, because that will launch the older version that wouldn't work. But on your machine, local machine, presumably you have already installed the latest one, so that's okay, right? So now if I click on Eclipse right now, let me show you on the desktop. I already got EECS1022, right? That's the one I cloned from my cloud. Similar procedure as we did in the remote labs, but now it's on my local Mac or local Windows in your case. So now what I will do is I'm going to say browse, okay, and then I will go to maybe desktop, and then I will choose this GitHub repository, the clone, and then I will say open, okay, and then I will say launch. Okay, as soon as it launches, it's going to show me exactly where I saw in my remote labs. Okay, I'm gonna say hide over here. So currently, I don't see that projects, the week 01. So this is quite typical. So whenever you actually try to clone and then you want to show the Java project, you have to import it explicitly. Let's see how you can do that. So you have to say import projects under general, and then existing projects into workspace, and then next. And then you have to select the root directory. Okay, just go to browse. And now this is the this is the root, basically the repository. Okay, EECS1022 W21. Right, you can see that one there actually shows the week 01 project here. So this might be something you will have to do every time when you clone either to your local machine or you clone to the remote lab account. Either way. Okay, and then we'll say finish. All right. So now if you see under week number 1, you can see now under source. Okay, and then we got hello world.java. So that's exactly what we got before, right? So now let's say we want to make some further changes to this. Okay, so can we just maybe just copy this line, Control C, and then Control V. Okay, so let's say hello. Let's put your name. How about that? In my case, I'll say hello, Jackie. Okay, we are all taking this course this term, let's say. So now if I click on the run, and then it's going to say hello. So this is from the previous remote lab work, and this is hello Jackie is actually from the my local machine. Okay, so I'm done now. So now let me switch to the GitHub desktop, right? If I go back there, you can see under the changes tab, it shows to me so far I have done these changes over here, right? So I'm just going to do the changes. Okay, so now here, normally you don't have to play, you don't have to tweak anything over here. I'll leave that stuff to you. Once you get more advanced, you might be able to judge. But I would say typically you will just take whatever that's given to you over here for the changes. Okay, so here summary is like a message. So now we're gonna say commit and then push. You can see on the GitHub Desktop, the advantage is you don't have to type the commands. But if you prefer, some people might prefer to type the command, but some people don't. Okay, so now what about some message? You can say edit one more message, right? But always try to think of some informative message for your log. Okay, I would say commit. However, let me show you one thing here. I said commit, right? If I simply go back to my web browser over here, right? So now if I go to week number 01 and then go to source, go to hello world.java, you can see, let me refresh the browser. Do I see hello Jackie over here? I don't, but I have committed. Well, remember I said you should really commit and push, right? I cannot emphasize that more, okay? So now after commit, you have to make sure you push to origin, like a git push that we did previously. All right, after you have done the push, just wait for that to finish. Okay, it's done. As soon as it is done, so now if you refresh the browser again, okay, it's gonna show me that, okay, hello Jackie over here. Okay, so that's about how you can make changes to on your local machine and then push them back to the GitHub cloud, right? So you can make changes either from the remote labs, or you can make changes from your local machine, but they both go to the cloud, and then that's how you keep things in sync. Okay, to end the video, I would like to show you one more summary diagram to really show you how things work, and then the rest will be up to you to really maintain a GitHub throughout the semester. Okay, let me switch to my iPad. Remember, we actually got 3 places over here to really store your work over here. So now we started with this particular GitHub account, EECS1022 W21. So that's your private repository, right? So this is where you started from. And then we got two possible places to work on your Java projects, your Java classes, either for your test, your lab, or your own exercises. Let's talk about, I would say most of you would prefer actually to really work on your local machine over here. So for your local machine, you can definitely work on the latest version for your Eclipse. And also you can use the GitHub Desktop. So GitHub Desktop. Everything is actually done in the GUI, and then every time when you're done with the particular developments on your Eclipse, you believe all the changes can now be pushed and commit to the cloud. So you will simply use the GitHub Desktop, and then you will simply commit and push, commit and also push. Okay, and then for the remote labs over here, so this over here, how can I get the most up-to-date version of the get a most up-to-date version of the cloud? So you can clone it. Okay, so now you can clone over here, and there is another command. You can explore that yourself. Okay, so let's say I make some changes to the cloud over here. So now what about I want to go for the remote labs? Typically once you log out of your remote labs account, is simply all the data will simply just get lost. So it simply makes sense for you to clone from scratch. So I think that'll be enough. However, there is another command for the Git called pull over here. So that's something I will leave to you to actually explore that. Okay, and then so I think clone should be enough. Okay, so now after you have cloned to the remote labs over here, so now you can also do any further developments you like. And then after that, you will, how can I commit and push? So you have to also use the commands that I show you already, right? So you have to say add, also commit, and also push. So these are the 3 commands which I illustrated to you earlier in this video. Okay, so that's how you keep things in sync. So at any time, you want to make sure either when you're done with your work, either from here or from here, you always want to commit and push the latest work into GitHub the cloud. Okay, and also you want to make sure this part over here really is private. Okay, it's really important. Okay, all right, so that's a very quick summary about how the things how you can manage the software for this course for all your Java projects. I hope this video is helpful to you, and then starting from the next video, I'm gonna assume you're going to maybe explore the GitHub function yourself. If this might be your first time using GitHub, I will highly encourage you to really stick to it. There might be some technical bottleneck that you might hit some wall about using it, but just get in touch with me and then I'll be happy to help you. It's a very good practice for you to get used to before you graduate from this course.